IVM.
Yes.
Well done.
And that is the best opening for a Simplified episode ever. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Simplified, the show where four co-hosts try to decipher the world around you in simple language so that you can appear moderately smarter than when you started. And that deep, sagacious voice that you heard right up top that just said, yes. That was Narendra Shenoy, who is one of our co-hosts, of course. And Naren has some interesting news.
Yeah. As of yesterday, I am COVID positive. So I had a fever last night and it was pretty bad. It was 103 and I had a headache. And miraculously, this morning it's gone. So I checked the thermometer. I still have a fever, it's 100 or so. But there's no headache, nothing. So, yeah, I'm hoping that I've seen the worst of it.
Yikes.
And such is your dedication, Naren, that you have shown up for 7:30
recording.
So I did not want to miss the topic today, which
and the co-hosts.
Yes. And co-hosts. I mean, and such is his dedication that he has. I mean, most listeners are not privy to the beautiful visuals of our show right now, but such is the dedication that Narendra Shenoy has exhibited that he has turned up only in Banyan. And his explanation for such is that there is no t-shirt in this room and I'm quarantining here.
Yeah. So what happened was when I was found positive, Sheila caught me by the scruff of my neck and shoved me into this room and forbade me to come out under any circumstances. Wow. And she threw all whatever she thought was essential stuff, such as my laptop charger and my phone charger and things like that.
So just to be clear, your podcast recording mic is more important in Sheila's eyes than clothing.
Yeah. I told
Ladies and gentlemen, dedication to Simblified.
And I said, I have no clothes. So she is unmoved by that entreaty. She said,
So this episode is going to come out only on the 17th of January. Hopefully Naren has recovered by then. But let that not stop the intrepid, simplified crowd from sending Naren get well soon messages or even profundities in get well soon form. Yeah. We are counting on the same audience that made Srikeit's website. So go for it, guys.
I think the IVM staff will put out a couple of choice video clips of this episode as well on Twitter. So we also welcome all Narendra Shenoy thirst tweets.
Wonderful. Oh, goodness. Okay. So I genuinely do not know how to segue from this into the topic for the day. So let's just get right into it. A couple of weeks back, the James Webb Telescope launched into the world. Actually, exactly a couple of weeks back because it happened on Christmas and last week was when we, at the time of recording. So one of our listeners, Everyday Silliness, he had recommended that we do an episode on this and seemed like a fascinating thing because I've been seeing the James Webb thing on and off for the last year or so. And I thought, okay, this might be a nice way to culminate everything and learned up a few things about it as well. And of course,
hey, just because closest link to astronomy I have is that in Big Bang Theory, the astronomer was the guy. His last name was Putrapalli, and my last name also has a Palli in it. That's about it.
Oh, nice. And Palli in Malayalam, of course, is either lizard or church, depending on where you place your tongue. So read into that what you will or will.
Oh, Palli is a church, is it?
Yeah, Palli is church, and Palli is...
because in Mangalore, Palli is mosque.
Anthony, who's our guest producer right now, along with Vinay, also informs us that Palli is school in Tamil. So, much profound.
And you can say that the Simplified gang, we are all tally with each other. It's a dystopian. Right. There's a dystopian movie where there are a bunch of video cassettes walking, and that is a movie called Pal-E.
Wow.
Like Wally,
I-
no?
No. The logic was not a problem. That was not the problem, Chuck. Anyway, speaking of which, and speaking of bad transitions, I think we have done it again and forgotten to introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
And so yes, hi, this is Srikeit, one host of Simplified. We have Naren, who is the COVID positive host of Simplified. We have Chuck, who is
Nice,
the
that's
just
one way of-
idiotic host of Simplified, and we have Tony, who's the absent host of Simplified.
Yeah.
And so that is the general tally of Simplified. And Chuck, what is it that we will be talking about today?
So just thought we'd have a quick simplified look at the James Webb Telescope and what it means, how it's different from what came before it, and all that. First up, we must ask the fundamental question: why bother getting a satellite, a telescope, all the way up to space in the first place?
And also, why name it? Why name it after James Webb?
I mean, that's the, to be honest, that's the least important part of this, to be honest. But did you have a more fundamental question, Srikeit?
Why put a telescope like this in space? I mean, just look, no, there is everything
Why
is
put
there
a
in
telescope?
sky.
Everything in sky. So the problem with that is that Earth is covered by an atmosphere. It's kind of annoying, but at least this is solace that it keeps everything else.
Keeps us alive.
Keeps us alive, mostly. And
Yeah,
I'm
which is-
told
which
that
is-
there are
which is a
useful
mild
things like the ozone layer
inconvenience.
and stuff like that. It's a minor inconvenience, yeah. So when we are looking up into space, there are the atmosphere kind of like gets in the way. So the best way to see space, or what one website described as the ultimate mountaintop to see space, is just getting the damn telescope into space itself. Scientists and space agencies have been trying to get telescopes to space, and of course the most famous of these is the Hubble Telescope that was launched by NASA in 1990, and it has actually exceeded expectations. Like in its report card, it's completely. It's spent way
Sharma
more
ji ka
time
beta
in
of a
space.
telescope.
Sharma ji ka beta
Sharma
of
ji ka
telescopes, yeah.
beta. Yeah. Or actually, there's another website which is Chandra Ka Beta, which is actually a Chandra, Subramanian Chandra. The Chandra X-ray telescope is actually named after Chandra. So I guess that's the closest that we can have to a Sharma ji ka Beta telescope. So anyway, the Hubble telescope was launched.
And India's only astronaut was Rakesh Sharma, so he was literally Sharma ji ka beta. So,
There we go. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. Okay. So jokes apart, we put up giant telescopes into space where there is no atmospheric disturbance. And one thing that all of you, I am sure, know that is that our eyes can perceive only a very small part of what is light. Their light by itself contains of a lot of things. There is visible light, of course, which is what we see, Vibgyor and all those other things. Then there is infrared, which forms a large part of the light spectrum. Then there are other things like ultraviolet, X-ray, and of course the light that emanates from Naren's wisdom. So these are the 5-6 types of light. Now our eyes and traditional telescopes, etc., can detect only the visible spectrum, but there is a lot of information packed into the others as well. So the Hubble telescope actually is primarily for the visible spectrum and a little bit of ultraviolet. And NASA has sent up 3 other telescopes in the interim. One was called the Spitzer telescope, which was to detect infrared. Then there's a Compton telescope for gamma, and then there is Chandra for X-ray. These 4 form NASA's 4 great observatories. This is a term that I came across only yesterday when I was reading up for this episode. The 4 great observatories, kind of like, I suppose, the Grand Slam of space telescopes. So
wow,
yeah.
It's like
that's
you do, or alternately in a more Indian context, it's the Char Dham Yatra of space telescopes.
or that, sure. Whichever way you would like to take it, there's a WhatsApp forward waiting to happen for that.
Yeah.
So it's like
so the Hubble telescope,
next Indian astronaut that goes to space has to go and like do Sashtang Pranam in every one of those telescopes and come.
Yeah. Put Nimbu Mirchi and everything outside. So the Hubble telescope has contributed a lot to science. It's also been a very integral part of public relations for NASA in some way. right? It keeps sending back iconic images. NASA was smart enough to make those images available to the public almost immediately so that debate and discussion, etc., could happen around those. And I suppose it all coincided nicely in the internet era as well. So these just spread more and more. Ironically, though, the Hubble telescope had the worst possible starts, where with a lot of fanfare it went up to space. And then when it finally sent back its first image, it was blurry crap. Like nobody could make head or tail of it. And there was a lot of public criticism about NASA wasting so much taxpayer money to send back images like this. And they actually had to send up. So if anybody listening to this episode has like their mobile phone or their camera broken and they're lamenting that they need to go to a service center about 500 meters away to fix it, NASA had to send up another spaceship with a service crew to fix the damn camera on the Hubble telescope, which is in Earth's lower atmosphere.
Wow.
So
world's most expensive servicing.
Yeah, they had actually planned for about, let's say Dunzo tried to do that. So they had about 5 or 6 service missions planned. They had about 5 or 6 service missions planned for the life of the Hubble telescope in space, but they never expected one to happen so early. I think it happened in a year or so after the Hubble was launched. But anyway, after that was fixed, it completely worked, and Hubble's been sending back amazing images ever since. I actually did not know the fact that there were regular crews going up and upgrading the Hubble's optics, and the images have just gotten better. This is astonishing photo that Hubble's shot of something called the Whale Nebula, which is some part of the universe somewhere. I'm not enough into astronomy to know these things, what exactly that means, but it's a part of the universe and it looks absolutely gorgeous. One of the best photos that the Hubble took, or one of the photo that in Vox's words changed everything, was a 1995 photo called the Deep Field photo, which is and there's no polite way of saying this, just a random photo. It was just pointing to nothing and everything at the same time. Because till now, telescopes are focusing on one object in particular, but the director of the telescope said, no, I just wanted to focus on, just everything at once. So they found that everything voila point, and that's a very rich photo in the sense that there are just so many images over there and so much science has been done on the basis of that one photo itself. So it's called the NASA Deep Field photo, and it's quite interesting if anyone wants to have a look at it. So anyway, so Hubble's done a lot for humanity, and it's pretty much on its last legs or last orbits, and we need something...
Last lenses.
Last lenses, nice. So we need something better. So the James Webb Telescope is hardly new. It's something that's, I think, about 2 decades in the making, with an initial budget of 1 billion. It's obviously ballooned up to 10 billion now. The problem with all these things like billion, 1 billion, 10 billion, it feels with all these valuations of companies right now, you would think that mankind's biggest telescope going to space to look at 20 billion years in the past should cost more than 10 billion, or there are some companies that shouldn't be worth 1 billion. It just feels ridiculous.
No, this actually reminds me of the whole thing about the Indian space mission to Mars costing less than the movie Gravity did. It is that ridiculous. I mean, you would hope that the actual explorations of space are like cheap, are more expensive than the movie representations of it. So
yeah, absolutely. And just to put things in and just to put things in perspective, this is supposed to be the apex of human astronomy, engineering, ingenuity, ambition, everything, and it's still valued at 1/5 the value of Byju's. So that's what we're talking about. Just saying. I don't think they had to coerce the astronomers. Just imagine if no, never mind. That's another bleak thought. Let's not get there. So the James Webb Telescope. So it is named after a gentleman called James Webb, who was the chairman of NASA at the time of the Apollo launch. Although this is also slightly controversial because there are reports that said Mr. Chairman was slightly homophobic during his tenure. But but there's a lot of debate about that right now. And I guess everyone is just happy that the damn telescope is up in space and not wanting to invite unnecessary controversy right now. But yes, that is there. It is 100 times more powerful than the Hubble telescope. It is also going to be much, much further away. It's going to be 1.5 million kilometers away from the Earth. To put things in context, the moon is less than 400,000 kilometers away. So if something goes wrong over there, it's very unlikely that we are going to be able to send a service crew as easily as we
Wow.
did the Hubble telescope. So
Yeah.
the James Webb telescope is also going to optimize for infrared, and that is something that we will explore on the other side of this break, because, well, that's going to take some explanation. So yes.
Yeah. See
Be
you
right
around.
back.
$100. That's all it takes to begin your journey with Bitcoin and Ethereum. No, really. With CoinSwitch, you can start investing in over 100 cryptocurrencies with just 100 rupees. On top of that, there are zero charges for deposits and withdrawals, so you can trade, buy, sell, however and whenever you want. All of this, plus their extremely intuitive interface, makes CoinSwitch the perfect app for beginners in the crypto space. But don't take my word for it. Just download CoinSwitch for free and try it out for yourself. If you'd like more information on cryptocurrencies, tune into a show about crypto with me, Rohan Joshi, my new adventure on IBM Podcasts. CoinSwitch, kuch to badlega.
Welcome back to Simplified's look at the James Webb Telescope. And when I say look, I obviously mean metaphorical look, because we can't see the telescope anymore. 2 days back, as at the time of recording, there was this poignant video that NASA had released. This is the last time humanity is ever going to see the James Webb Telescope, and it's gone. So whether it's a success, whether it's a failure, you're never going to be able to see it again. So it's gone.
Wow.
It's very unlikely that NASA is going to be able to send a service station or something like that at least in the next decade, is what they say. So that's a length of these things, lives that we're talking about. But anyway, let's come back to the James Webb Telescope. So it is going to focus primarily on the infrared spectrum. What that means is it is optimized, just like your camera. A typical camera is optimized for visible light, as are your eyes. This telescope is going to be optimized for infrared. Now, I won't get too much into the science of it. One, because there's a lot, and two, I honestly don't understand all of it. The biggest advantage of looking at infrared is with a series of calculations, you're basically looking back in time. One of the best definitions of the telescope that I came across is that this is actually a time machine that NASA is sending up, which will be able to look back 13.5 billion years. Because, well, we'll all know that light travels, it's not instantaneous, but when you are sitting in a room and you switch on a light bulb, there is actually a very small billionth of a second delay in the light coming on and it hitting your eyes, but it's so small that you obviously don't perceive it. Similarly, and then as distances increase, this becomes more and more palpable. The light that you're seeing from the sun or the moon right now obviously has left the said celestial bodies a few seconds or minutes back, and so on and so forth for the other planets and other things that you see, especially the stars. Those things might have left a few days or even months back. So NASA hopes to be able to... So that is all just visible light. Infrared, however, travels for a much longer distance without losing any of its... without losing strength, and with a series of calculations which involve things like wavelengths and all that, NASA hopes that this telescope will be able to detect things that happened very, very far back in the past and be able to capture photographically things that happen. And when I say things back in the past, I'm not talking about Naren's youth or something like that. I am talking about 13.5 billion years back.
A mere 13.5 billion years.
A mere 13.5 billion years back. Essentially, it hopes to capture light since the universe existed. No pressure, James Webb Telescope. So, yeah.
Yeah, but this reminds me of when I was moving into one of my houses in Bombay. Common friend of ours, Divya, gave me a small wall hanging of sorts, which had like a very beautiful quote. So it had the exact 1995 deep space picture, and it was written over there. And I am known to be a bit of a grammar stickler from time to time, and so she had written that the quote on the poster was that adhering to grammar is like watching stars in the sky. It may look pretty, but they're actually all remnants of objects long dead.
Wow.
So now that was this just the entire conversation of looking back in time reminded me of that. Like actually, what we look at in the sky, in the night sky, are pretty much stars which have probably already died.
Yeah. Also, given the temperature that's up there, it's also quite chilly up there in space. That's no, never mind. That's unnecessary observation. The other things that the telescope is going to do, I mean, there are a lot of reasons why it's going up there. It hopes to study every phase of cosmic history, like I just said. It hopes to validate a lot of theories and hypotheses that astronomers have. They've all just educated guesses till now, but hopefully they'll find some proof of it, including some controversial theories that Stephen Hawking had put forward on black holes and dark matter. And it also hoped to use this to detect signs of life. So infrared is fairly versatile. Not just is it a time-traveling little piece of the spectrum, but it also is very useful to look at exoplanets and things of that nature, which basically means that this telescope can detect whether there are some kind of gases coming from very, very far away planets, exoplanets, which basically mean planets outside our solar system, and see whether that means that there are signs of life out there. So all these things put together means that we are going to learn a lot more about ourselves, our role in the universe, evolution of life, not just on Earth, but around the world, hopefully a lot more about the Big Bang Theory. And of course, along the way, I hope that they will be sending a lot more amazing photographs and stuff like that. If the Hubble was able to send those kind of photos, then using today's technology and with those improved optics that the James Webb has, I think is going to be an interesting thing for not just science, but also popular science and rekindling science in popular imagination. So there's a lot riding on this, obviously. The launch happened on Christmas Day after years of delays and budget overruns, but it went off without a hitch. And they were actually, it's quite fascinating. If you've seen I'm sure all of you have seen some image or the other, the iconic hexagonal golden shape of the James Webb Telescope. These are all, there are 16 hexagonal mirrors all put together, and all of these are made out of beryllium, which just goes to show that if you work hard, you can be anything that you like.
I have to tell you this thing about beryllium. You know what is the ore for beryllium? Beryllium is a metal, right?
And beryllium oxide?
No, it is sapphires.
Oh man.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
So beryllium basically comes coated in like...
Or rubies or sapphires. I don't remember which, but it's a precious stone. I think rubies. I don't remember. Rubies or sapphires. You can check that on the... But beryllium is bloody expensive because you need gemstones.
I mean, if it is coated in rubies, it will definitely be bloody, literally and metaphorically bloody expensive.
And it's also, these things are made out of beryllium and they are coated with gold. Because, gold is the Sharmaji ka beta of the periodic table. No, best conductivity, most expensive, this thing, that, everything. It's
most malleable, most ductile.
Yeah,
everything. Overachiever. Hate gold. Can't stand that show off.
No, but anyway, it is a terrible. To its credit, the one negative thing about gold is that over the past year, it's been a bad asset class. I am 1% down on my gold portfolio.
Of course, Srikeit, yes. All those physical and chemical properties have been undone because the actual truth comes in the markets.
Yeah, man. What is gold price? That is the main thing.
Yeah. If you kick gold, you know what sound it makes? Ow!
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well played.
Unnecessary. Anyway, so the telescope has a lot of instrumentation and very sophisticated sort of things. The idea is that the sensor size is about 16 times or something. No, 6 times larger than that of the James Webb Telescope. It's going to receive a lot of infrared and then reflect that onto a much smaller mirror, and hence the images are likely to be more high res, etc., etc. So it's quite an engineering marvel. In fact, it's quite a sprawling telescope. It's on a base that's the size of a tennis court. Now, to get this damn thing up to space, it's very difficult to get something that's up to space, right? So they actually had to and this is ingenious. They actually had to design it in such a way that it could be flapped, almost like like an origami of sorts, so that it could fit inside the rocket, and then it could be shot up into space. And then as we record, it's actually slowly unfurling in space. It's actually not a complete working telescope up in space just yet. Various parts of it are unfolding. As of now, everything seems to be absolutely fine, and there's no issue. But it's just amazing the amount of technology that's gone behind just getting the damn thing to space. They said that there are 300 possible points at which there are 300 possible things that could go wrong. But they've just tried, tested, rehearsed this so many times that they're pretty confident that it's all going to work out well. So yes, that is a little bit about the James Webb Telescope. Oh, here's another interesting thing which I did not know. It's not like the telescope just randomly floats up into space and like a tourist clicks everything and sends it back to Earth. So you actually have to get in touch with NASA, like various researchers have to get in touch with NASA, and they have to subscribe to like time slots. So maybe in a particular location is going to be great for observing, one planet or one phenomenon or something like that. So apparently, and Srikeit will love this because this kind of reminded me of how stocks are oversubscribed. It's actually subscribed to for a fair amount of months, and only after that can NASA allow the telescope to do something random, which led to the deep field photo that we were talking about a while after that. Yeah, for 6 months after launch, it's already subscribed all the time. So it's kind of fascinating, right? To just see it's kind of fascinating to see how the operations of these things happen. Just imagine being a project manager coordinating for researchers around the world, all of them wanting time on this.
This actually makes sense because there's I remember again from the Big Bang Theory itself, like there were a couple of references that Rajesh Kutrapalli used to talk about, was about booking time on the HST. Right. So there are people who there's a system where you have to like go through a set of booking form. I can almost imagine the booking form for that. I doubt it will be a simple Google form. Kitna time chahiye? Kitna time ke liye chahiye?
I wonder if we could book time and just do never mind. By we, I mean, of course, simplified. Let's see.
Maybe we can like imagine how freaky it would be if that we like book time on the James Webb Telescope. We're looking into some deep galaxy somewhere, and like a cloud suddenly forms with the word simplified.
Anyway, so
then we can truly conclude there is no intelligent life out there.
There is no intelligent life out there because they're listening to Simplified. That would be an amazing conclusion to all of civilization. So it's actually quite hot up where the telescope is going to be. It's actually 50 degrees Celsius. Up there, which is not very amenable for infrared, which prefers which works better in much lower temperatures. So that tennis field size things that I'm talking about, they're actually sun shields. So basically, the telescope has its back to the sun, and there are 5 shields which have a sun that SPF factor, which you find on your actually the SPF factor of the James Webb Telescope's shields is 1 million. Just to put things in context, your average sunscreen has somewhere between 30 to 50. So as a result of which, the temperature on the ass of the telescope is 50 degrees Celsius. On the other side, it's like some minus 200, 300 degrees.
Yeah,
so that's
it needs to be 50K. I read. I
50 Kelvin, correct. 50 Kelvin. Yeah. 50 Kelvin. So I don't know. I think that's minus 200 degrees Celsius or something.
Minus,
minus 273.
Yeah. So that's how effective that damn thing is. And for one, like, why are we wasting this technology on a satellite? Have you seen Bombay in summer? Can we have a few of those things installed over here so that we can reduce our AC costs? Is what I want to ask. But yeah, I think that's broadly about it. There's lots. So one, there's a lot of science which I don't understand enough to propound on this show. And two, it's still very much WIP. In fact, one major component is going to go live tomorrow at the time of recording, which is we are recording on the 8th of Jan, and 9th of Jan, one more of the components is being launched or is going live. And only after a period of 3 months or something will the telescope actually start beaming images and data back down to Earth. So still a long way to go. But overall, it's pretty exciting. And like I said, it opens, we will be able to look back at the past, answer questions, maybe even come out with some completely new questions. So yes, all in all, pretty exciting.
And in this, actually, one thing that I actually was speaking to another friend who was like, we were having a deeper conversation about just the kind of projects that people undertake and how money is wasted. And then one of the conversations revolved around how effectively NASA is a great waste of money. Like about how
effectively NASA is a great way of money. Okay.
No, not effectively, but like how NASA itself is a great waste of money. And and that's where, like, one of the counterpoints that kind of I said and I read a bit about after was, I mean, it's when Sputnik was sent up and all that, it was just like, oh, let's see what's out there. But the process of doing all of this actually eventually led to what is one of the most useful things for global communications and global life today, satellites, right? Yeah. And what the HST saw, I mean, it may at this point seem like a gigantic, a gigantic high school experiment of sorts, just seeing better into space and seeing like deeper into space and stuff. But you never know when you might be able to see something, or even forget the actual effectiveness of the mission. The process of building this telescope itself and launching it and making it a success, whether it is using those gold-plated beryllium plates to kind of like have a better view of different different spectrum of light and stuff like that. Earth itself has so many applications and uses of developing stuff. So as such, it is a real that the benefits you may not be evident right now, but there are several, and it is part of the entire process. And in that thing of part of the entire process, there are things that come, and it's actually turns and comes back in a perfect circle to the James Webb Telescope itself, because it is named after James Webb, the NASA administrator, whose greatest achievement, or whose greatest, like, the most notable point of his career was actually Apollo 1. Now, Apollo 1, there was a fire in the capsule and a couple of astronauts died on Earth itself, right? And he handled the entire, he handled the press and the aftermath of all of that. And he was one of the people who was responsible for saying, no, we will do Apollo 2. We're not going to scrap the program after this, and we're going to keep going. The whole point is that you will have setbacks. You will have all of these, you will have like cost overruns. You will have all kinds of problems in trying to explore something new. But you would have never had Apollo 11 and Neil Armstrong and the trip to the moon, and thereby now leading to technological advances like the James Webb Telescope, had you abandoned the Apollo 1 system. So it's actually very aptly named after
so this is actually
James Webb.
So it's actually a nod to administration rather than engineering ingenuity, which you can argue is as important, if not more important.
I mean, it requires, daring and bold administration actually leads to tremendous things, just as much as engineering and scientific fields.
So shout out to admin and HR, all admin and HR out there.
Like I completely agree with what you're saying. I think Nikola Tesla could have used with a little bit of admin, and he might have been the greatest inventor, or would be popularly known as the greatest inventor of all time, rather than the other guy who had good PR going for him. And we know who that is.
Count on a podcast full of MBAs to praise administration.
Praise the administration. 1/3 of MBA is administration now. So so you're right now. So if you see the list of technologies that have the consumer technologies that have spinned off as a result of NASA's experiments, even if it's like we don't have private rockets right now, but everything from GPS technologies to the material that is on the sole of a Nike shoe originally has some origin in space research, etc. So yes, absolutely, you're right, absolute. So we may or may not understand where we are coming from with the James Webb Telescope, but there's no doubt that there's going to be some consumer tech in the next 10, 15, 20 years that's going to come out as a result of this.
Yeah, closer to home, from even the rocketry technology that APJ Abdul Kalam was working on led to the development, and the super lightweight materials that he was working with, carbon fiber materials that he was working with, led to the development of super lightweight prosthetics for people to use. And those prosthetics are enabling people, like earlier they used to have to lug around that 20 kilo Jaipur foot, and now they are able to use like carbon fiber super lightweight prosthetics. So these technologies have like wide ranging, technological progress should not be discounted just because it's not immediately utilitarian.
Yep.
So there's a lot riding on this, and we at Simblified will be keeping a keen eye on the James Webb. Of course, we won't be, metaphorical eye, because we won't be able to see it anymore. There are a few final random observations and points that I wanted to make, which I just put up over here. So here's an interesting little story actually about the telescope. See, when NASA were putting plans for the telescope together, they realized that it was going to be super expensive, and they were very scared about how the administration was going to react to, like, oh, there's a lot of construction machinery, tools, etc. So they put the final figure together. Like, shit, this is actually going to pass muster. And they sent it to the NASA head. And he, next day itself, came and said, the plans are approved, but tell me which spectrum do you plan to cover? The scientists were actually very tense about the plans getting approved, and surprised that he's approved it so quickly. Like he said, have you actually gone through the documents for all the infrastructure and everything that we have said? He said, yes, but which spectrum of light do you plan to cover? Again, the incredulous scientist asked, did you infrared? So the Srikeit knows where this is going. So as you also know, there are lots of Indians working at NASA, and they tend to bring their food along with them. And one of the Americans who was, they used to eating bland food, they had some of the, regular homemade food that we'd be having. And they said, wow, mates, this is outstanding. Like, what Indian preparation is, what amazing Royal Indian preparation
are there in
what amazing Royal Indian food is this? The Indian just shrugged and said, this is mere curry. Mercury? Okay. So, that didn't work as well. So, have you seen, anyway, I think we need a break. So, have you seen the 2013 Hindi movie about three friends who wanted to observe the outer solar system? The outer solar system. It's a movie called Kuiper Che. Kuiper.
Please.
Kuiper Belt.
So one of our
I understood.
One of our ardent listeners on Simblified at Trend Crusher on Twitter, he and I were playing a history game, and he asked me, Chuck, who did Hitler hate? And then I said, Jew, Peter. Srikeit, you look very, very down. You look like you could use a medication or two. So can I interest you in asteroid? Steroid. Okay, just a couple more. There was a sage who was asked his opinion. A sage, like a very wisely Rastafarian sage, who was asked his opinion on the lengths of various genres of music, and he was especially critical of pop music for being too short, and of course, Srikeit, of our favorite genre, progressive rock, for being too long. So this sage would famously said, "Pop seem a second, prog seem a century." Proxima Century. Yeah. He was also not too fond of. He was also not too fond of sprouts, so he would always find meals with sprouts very long. So he would also say alfalfa century. Century. Okay, enough for now. And actually, Naren, I can actually see your muscles through because you're wearing. I can see. So I can actually say Buzz Armstrong. It was supposed to be Buzz Aldrin, but I mixed up the two.
Buzz
Anyway,
Aldrin.
finally, let's end with a basketball observation. And Srikeit, this is specially for you because I know you're a big fan of the NBA. So there's an NBA team called the Celtics, okay, and they managed to sign up the best basketball player in the world right now. And to fill said best basketball player in the world's position at the Golden State Warriors, his former teammate, a guy whose first name is Damian, had to step up. But here's the interesting thing, Srikeit. The Golden State Warriors' new sponsor is an Indian pharma company, the same guys who make Manforce condoms and Prega News. So that's one small step for Maine and one giant leap for mankind. That's about it. So we'll be back with another episode on the James Webb Telescope soon.
Wow.
And
I thought of one. I thought of one. Even when they had to replace the HST with the James Webb Telescope because it couldn't see the brightest star in the sky. To which the NASA astronomers replied, "Are you serious?"
Well played. Yeah.
We have made Srikeit say a bad joke on air, which I think is the logical conclusion of this episode. So, gentlemen, can we call this a day? Or
Yes.
a light year?
Yes.
Let's call this a light year.
Yeah.
So, Naren, get well soon, Naren. Get well soon.
Thank you. Yeah.
Or
And,
everyone who's listening into this, you can send your death threats to me and your get well soon messages in mandated in at least 5 color based WhatsApp forwards to Naren. And yes,
so
Naren.
those I actually, I could experience the COVID viruses fleeing in large numbers when they heard Chuck's dreadful.
Is this all it takes? Is this all it takes? In which case, I will tackle the third wave. There are few of us on Twitter who are capable of destroying the third wave and this ruddy virus forever. If they, honestly speaking, if puns are what is going to kill this virus, oh boy, is Twitter well placed to take this on. Andy Zaltzman and I will join forces to.
So yeah,
in your face, Moderna.
Stay safe, guys. Stay safe. Stay exploring.
Infrared.
Right?
Stay infrared. Okay, stay exploring. Stay
exploring
and
stay simplified. And see you next week.
Stay infrared, it seems like a bad spin-off of the Hulk. Okay. Bye everyone. See you soon.
Bye. See you guys. Yeah. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. Kill Niti completes 200 episodes. Rajiv Mishra, Nikhil Chopra and Rajkumar Sharma discuss the final test match between India and South Africa. They also talk about whether or not Virat will return as captain. On Think Fast, Varun and Suchita dig into Apple's $3 trillion market cap and Bezos' Chirag Din uncle look for New Year's Eve. On Raw and Organic, Kunal talks to pole fitness trainer and flexibility coach Joanna Michelle. On Pesa Vesa, Anupam finds out how REITs are beneficial from Vinod Rohira. He's the CEO of Mindspace Business Park REIT. And on Filter Coffee, Karthik talks to sports journalist Pradeep Magazine about his new book, Not Just Cricket. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. We really do appreciate the word of mouth. Also, don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms that you're listening to us on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is. And we are also on YouTube. On YouTube, you can check out our various channels on ivmpodcast.com/YouTube. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Bank of Baroda and CoinSwitch Kuber. Thank you for making this possible.
Have you ever wondered where the business world is headed? How the ways in which we create, market, and sell to consumers will evolve? Or if we'll ever go back to wearing pants while working? For answers to all of this and more, tune into Advertising is Dead with me, Varun Dugirala. Every Tuesday, as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond. You can catch all episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.